A young man with messy black hair stares forward, his face pale and sweating with shock. A tall woman gripping a staff looks down at the kneeling 20-year-old Kohinata Rin. She coldly declares that he possesses absolutely no special abilities. Walking through a bustling, noisy city street, Rin stares blankly ahead. He feels completely hollow and empty inside as the daily grind consumes him. His eyes widen in sudden dismay. He realizes with a sinking heart that he just missed his train. Suddenly, his phone begins vibrating persistently in his pocket. Glancing at the screen, he sees a message from his coworker asking him to cover tomorrow's shift due to a cold. His senior apologizes for the sudden request. Staring at the message, Rin quietly accepts the extra shift since he doesn't mind working on his day off. He figures it doesn't matter much anyway, considering he has no girlfriend to spend time with. Trudging along the pavement, he laments his terrible luck after being hit by bird droppings and having black cats cross his path. He sighs heavily, concluding that today is simply not his day. Carrying a plastic bag, a dejected Rin exits the local 24-mart convenience store. The automatic doors slide shut behind him as the clerk thanks him for his purchase. Suddenly, his attention is caught by a blinding flash of light erupting down an alleyway. A dark figure sprints frantically away from the glowing source. The running man blows past him with a sudden whoosh of air. Rin flinches backward in surprise at the near collision. An injured older woman stumbles into view, pointing desperately at the fleeing suspect. She screams that the man just snatched her purse. Rin freezes for a split second, his eyes wide with shock. The woman's frantic cries for help echo in his ears, demanding immediate action. Clenching his jaw tightly, he grits his teeth in sudden determination. With a fierce shout, Rin dashes forward to chase down the thief. He kicks off the ground with a powerful whoosh, leaving his hesitation behind. Pumping his arms, he closes the distance rapidly. He pushes his body to the limit, brimming with confidence in his own sprinting speed. Stretching his arm as far as it can go, Rin lunges toward the fleeing criminal. His fingertips brush against the fabric of the thief's jacket. Just as he makes contact, a blinding, magical flash erupts around them. Rin cries out in shock as the overwhelming light completely swallows him whole. Surrounded by an ethereal glow, Rin's vision swims with sparkling particles. He stares blankly forward, utterly bewildered by the sudden shift in reality. The light fades to reveal Rin kneeling on the floor of a massive, opulent throne room. A woman draped in an elegant cloak stands before him, gripping a ceremonial staff. An angry, heavily built king slumps in his throne, furious that their summoned hero appears completely incompetent. He barks an order at the woman, Marie, demanding she check the boy's stats a second time. Marie adjusts her round glasses with a perfectly calm expression. She bows slightly and agrees to carry out the king's command. Gripping her staff, Marie steps forward and peers closely into Ren's face. Rin stares back, sweating nervously under her intense, piercing gaze. Magical energy crackles around her as she activates her scanning ability. Her pupil narrows, reading the deepest layers of the boy's soul. A glowing, double helix structure materializes right out of Ren's chest. Ren recoils in pure shock as the magical display projects his genetic data into the air. The glowing light reflects in Marie's glasses as she finishes her analysis. She turns her head back to address the king with a grim tone. She reports that the boy's power is completely ordinary and devoid of any special abilities. She confirms the scan results remain the same, finding absolutely nothing of value. Hearing this devastating verdict, Ren collapses backward onto his hands. He stares up with wide, trembling eyes, sweating profusely in the tense silence. The king erupts in fury, raging about the countless mana stones wasted to perform this grand summoning ritual. He bellows that they definitely did not expend those resources to summon a completely incompetent weakling. Ren slumps over in utter defeat while the king continues to scream. The monarch demands to know why this pathetic boy doesn't possess the overpowered abilities of a true hero. Sighing deeply, Marie turns her cold gaze back toward the trembling young man. She prepares to interrogate him further to uncover the truth of this botched summoning. Staring him down, she demands to know exactly what he was doing before arriving in their world. Ren nervously stammers that he was just a normal guy chasing after a purse snatcher. He explains that right as he lunged for the thief, he suddenly appeared in this throne room. Marie addresses the throne, concluding that this frightened boy is a completely unrelated bystander. The king grumbles in frustrated realization, absorbing the bitter truth. Ren slowly realizes the horrifying truth. He was dragged into this fantasy world entirely by mistake. Marie theorizes that the purse snatcher he was chasing was their actual intended hero, but Ren was simply standing too close to the activation point. The king clicks his tongue in sheer panic, wondering how they will survive this disaster. He glares at Ren, knowing the frail boy stands absolutely no chance against their monstrous enemy. Across the grand hall, two heavily armored royal guards stand rigidly at attention. They watch the pathetic scene unfold in absolute silence. Slumping into a chair in a side room, Ren feels entirely lost and overwhelmed by his sudden uselessness. He buries his face in his hands, terrified of what his future holds in this strange, hostile world. Desperately clinging to hope, Ren mutters that he must have received some kind of hidden power. He tries to convince himself that his life will follow the plot of an anime or light novel where the weak protagonist is actually secretly overpowered. Focusing his mind, he attempts to replicate the magical scan Marie performed on him. He wonders if he can visualize his own hidden status board. He narrows his eyes in intense concentration, straining to force the magic to manifest. Slowly, a faint, glowing double helix materializes in the air behind his chair. Ren turns his head, his breath hitching as the magical interface flickers into view. He successfully summons his status window and cheers in sheer disbelief. Desperate for survival, he frantically scans the glowing text for anything useful. Suddenly, his eyes widen to the size of saucers in pure astonishment. Peering closer, he spots hidden text shimmering faintly in the background. He realizes that he actually does possess something incredibly unique. A barrage of overpowered crafting skills erupts around him, revealing titles like King of Mining and King of Harvesting. He also discovers an unlimited item box alongside the legendary King of Smithing ability. Ren throws his hands up in absolute victory, thrilled that his King-tier skills guarantee an awesome life. He laughs it off, completely unbothered that his abilities are suited for crafting rather than traditional hero work. His celebration abruptly dies as he realizes that summoning a hero implies the existence of a terrifying demon lord. Trembling in fear, he admits he has absolutely no combat skills to fight a monster like that, making a snap decision to hide his overpowered crafting skills. Ren quietly sneaks toward the heavy wooden door. He resolves to keep his mouth shut and avoid any deadly responsibilities. Before he can escape, Marie intercepts him alongside a scowling royal guard. She coldly commands the useless boy to pack his things and leave the castle immediately. Ren points angrily, demanding the royals either send him back to his world or take responsibility and guarantee his well-being. Marie glares down at him, coldly stating that she does not care about his well-being. She clicks her tongue in profound irritation, furious that all her trouble with the ritual summoned someone like him. The king erupts in fury and immediately orders his guards to drag the boy out of the castle. Ren panics and yells that they are being unreasonable since he has no money, fearing he will get lost and die like a dog out there. Marie snaps that she is irritated by the summoning failure and tells him to just be thankful he wasn't killed on the spot. She turns away, callously reiterating that she simply does not care. A heavily armored guard escorts a dejected Ren out through the massive stone gates of the castle courtyard. Ren walks away with his head hung low in defeat while the guard watches him depart. To his surprise, the guard stops him and offers an apology, explaining he has nothing against Ren and is just following orders. A small pouch of coins clinks loudly as the guard tosses it into Ren's hands. Tears well up in Ren's eyes as he thanks the man profusely, realizing he is genuinely a good person and asking for his name. The guard tells him not to sweat it, explaining that thinking about Ren's bleak future made him feel bad. He casually introduces himself as Ahab. Standing alone on a grassy hill overlooking a sprawling town, Ren wonders aloud where he should go now. Remembering Ahab's advice, Ren realizes he needs money to live and must find a job first. Ahab had suggested that even without being a hero, Ren could still become an adventurer. Ren recalls Ahab explaining that adventurers make a living by killing monsters and doing odd jobs daily. Looking out over the windswept fields, Ren admits he knows nothing about this world or its currency. He determines that becoming an adventurer seems to be his only viable option for now. Ren silently thanks Ahab for everything, realizing that despite the unfriendly king and woman, good people still exist here. Ahab's parting smile flashes in Ren's mind as the guard encouraged him not to give up, promising that good things happen as long as you stay alive. Ahab had reassured him not to mind the royalty, expressing gladness at meeting someone from another world. Bracing himself against the wind, Ren marches purposefully down the grassy hill toward the distant town. Doubts swirl in his mind as he wonders if he will actually be able to find a job to support himself. A vision of his old life flashes by, reminding him of his mundane corporate job and the text message asking him to cover a shift. Ren clenches his jaw, pushing the memories of his past life away and focusing on his current reality. Shaking off his hesitation, he vows to do his absolute best to survive in this new world. He resolves that there is no use dwelling on the past now that he is stuck here. Ren walks through the peaceful, cobblestone streets of the town, passing by a large stone fountain and bustling townsfolk. He notes that the town is called Terialen and feels a wave of relief realizing he can actually read the local language. Ren stops in front of a rustic, welcoming building, wondering if this is the Adventurers Guild he was told about. He cautiously pushes the heavy wooden door open, peering inside with nervous anticipation. Inside, a beautiful receptionist with long blonde hair and a neat uniform sits behind the counter, looking up from her paperwork. She flashes a dazzling smile and politely asks how she can help him. Ren blushes furiously, completely captivated by her gorgeous appearance. Stammering nervously, Ren approaches the counter and asks if it is okay for him to register as an adventurer. The receptionist cheerfully confirms that anyone can become an adventurer and introduces herself as Farah. Ren squeezes his eyes shut, utterly overwhelmed by how dazzling she is. Farah gently slides a beautifully decorated parchment across the desk, presenting Ren with his official adventurer card. She begins explaining the basics, noting that both adventures and quests are divided by ranks. She clarifies that the 7 ranks span from the lowest F tier to the highest S tier. Pointing to a pyramid diagram, Farah explains that adventurers promote by completing requests, but they can only take jobs at their current rank or 1 rank above. Ren thinks the system sounds simple and imagines how amazing it would be to reach S rank. Farah notes that while there are currently no S rank adventurers, there are S rank requests submitted by the kingdom. She elaborates that these high-level requests require mandatory large parties, acting similar to an army reserve corps. Ren listens attentively, observing that they might even drag F ranks along depending on the circumstances. Farah points toward a wooden board where several adventurers are gathered, explaining that all available requests are posted there. She mentions that novice adventurers usually start by taking care of goblins. Sweating slightly, Ren thinks to himself that fighting goblins might be way too much for him right now. Farah gently suggests he choose a simpler request directly from the bulletin board. Walking over to the board, Ren confidently selects 3 separate job postings at once. Farah watches in surprise, asking if he really intends to do 3 tasks simultaneously. Ren casually replies that these tasks will keep him occupied until tonight. Farah warns him to be careful, as failing requests repeatedly could result in his adventurer card being revoked. Flashing another bright smile, she confirms his jobs are registered and wishes him good luck out there. Stepping outside, Ren pumps his fist excitedly, ready to tackle his very first job in this new world. The scene shifts to reveal that his first task is simply sweeping a yard, and an older woman kindly tells him to take a break since he is almost finished. The elderly woman praises him, noting how reliable men are and admitting she struggles to maintain the place living all alone. Ren pauses his sweeping and asks if she feels lonely living by herself. He quickly apologizes for prying, not wanting to worry her. The woman smiles warmly, explaining that it has been some time since her husband and son passed away, so she is already used to it. Gazing curiously at his surroundings, Ren wonders aloud if this new country is actually as dangerous as he first assumed. An older woman nearby reassures him that they are currently at peace, though she causally mentions that a terrifying monster attacked the city not too long ago. Picturing a generic fantasy warrior, Ren feels immensely relieved he was not chosen to be a legendary hero, even as he nervously questions her about the monster. Smiling warmly at the young man, the woman politely thanks Ren for coming to help her today. She explains that she submitted this chore request to the guild quite a while ago, but absolutely nobody showed up to assist her. Breathing a sigh of relief, Ren realizes cleaning requests are wildly unpopular among the local adventurers, which is fortunate for his employment prospects. Praising him as incredibly dependable, the woman watches as Ren cheerfully announces he is nearly finished and quickly resumes his sweeping. Striding confidently down a narrow, sunlit alleyway, he mentally prepares for the next destination on his itinerary. He continues navigating through the dense, cloud-covered town, steadily making his way toward his next client. Maintaining his steady momentum, Ren efficiently completes his second assigned task of cleaning a storefront, followed swiftly by his third task of scrubbing out a dirty gutter. Wiping the heavy sweat from his brow, he realizes all his clients were grieving widows and grimly wonders if the recent monster attacks are to blame for their loss. He glances thoughtfully up at the towering brick chimneys and the expansive, clouded sky drifting over the peaceful settlement. Back at the guild, the blonde receptionist stares at him in absolute astonishment, completely surprised that he managed to finish all 3 labor-intensive tasks so quickly. Using a magical device that reminds Ren of a modern ticket scanner, she officially confirms that all 3 of his assignments have been thoroughly completed. Thanking him profusely for his incredibly hard work, she hands over a small leather pouch containing his well-earned coin reward. Ren sheepishly accepts the heavy pouch of copper, admitting it is rather embarrassing to ask, but he desperately needs to know exactly how much these specific coins are worth. Slightly puzzled by his utter lack of basic knowledge, she politely asks if he hails from the kingdom of Elric, noting that they utilize a completely different financial system there. Blushing deeply under her curious gaze, Ren awkwardly stammers out an agreement to hide his true origins. He internally laments that he is actually a stranded traveler from an entirely different world, but happily accepts her compliment that his unique clothes really suit him. Spreading the currency on the counter, she explains the global standard, revealing that a single copper equals 10 lyre, while 100 coppers equal 1,000 lyre and can be exchanged for 1 silver coin. She further reveals the existence of magical item boxes that allow people to carry limitless money, though she warns that the royal family keeps these exceptionally rare tools under absolute, strict control. Ren freezes in sheer terror, his eyes widening as he realizes his own personal inventory skill is actually a highly restricted royal artifact. Trembling slightly, he understands that since these warehouse-like item boxes possess limitless capacity, malicious individuals could easily store massive amounts of currency and plunge the entire city into economic chaos. Panicking behind his calm facade, he firmly vows to completely avoid using his magical storage in public or ever breathing a single word about possessing one. Moving the conversation along with a bright smile, the helpful receptionist asks if he would be willing to take on any more requests today. Ren politely declines, noting he desperately needs to eat and secure a safe place to sleep first, but she gently warns him that today's meager reward is barely enough to cover a single night's lodging. Taking pity on the clueless traveler, she offers him one final, nearby chore and promises to reveal a wonderful inn where he can spend the night with both breakfast and dinner included. Overjoyed by her unexpected generosity, Ren beams with profound gratitude and enthusiastically begs her to give him the job. Following her precise directions, he soon arrives outside a massive, wealthy estate covered in dense, overgrown ivy. An elegant maid greets him at the entrance, warmly thanking the guild representative for coming to their aid so quickly. Leading him to a ruined vineyard, she explains that their regular gardener is on vacation and the incompetent replacement used entirely too much magic on the soil, leaving Ren to clean up the disaster. Rolling up his sleeves with a determined grin, Ren boldly tells the worried maid to leave the massive agricultural cleanup entirely to him. Crouching down into the dense foliage, he begins meticulously gathering the oversized, glowing purple grapes scattered across the ruined earth. Suddenly, an ethereal system prompt flashes across his vision, shockingly announcing that his King of Harvest skill has successfully leveled up. Ren jumps back with a sharp gasp, his face twisting into an expression of absolute, bewildered shock. Noticing his bizarre, panicked reaction, the stoic maid tilts her head and calmly asks if something is wrong. Frantically waving off her concern, Ren hastily apologizes and claims it was nothing, while internally freaking out over the mysterious voice echoing in his mind. Staring intensely at the plump fruit resting in his palm, he desperately tries to comprehend what just happened, since all he did was pick up some fallen grapes. The maid gives him additional strict instructions, demanding he weed the lawn and carefully separate the useless weeds from the salvageable ground grapes rather than simply throwing them away. Staring into the daunting wall of overgrown vines, Ren mentally steels himself for the grueling labor ahead and officially gets to work. The day slowly drifts away as thick, billowing clouds roll endlessly over the quiet, sprawling town. As the warm sun begins setting over the horizon, Ren wipes the sweat from his brow and proudly declares the newly pristine vineyard is looking exceptionally good. In a touching display of immense gratitude, a pair of hands gently offers him a massive, perfectly ripe bunch of grapes while thanking him sincerely. Ren awkwardly attempts to refuse the stubbornly shoved gift, insisting that the guild will provide his official compensation, but the grateful staff refuses to take no for an answer. Walking through the shadowy, darkening alleyways, Ren reflects on his surprisingly productive day, marveling that he secured a massive haul of fruit and 40 copper coins before bedtime. Pulling his thin jacket tightly around his shivering shoulders, he groans and realizes that the nights in this strange new world are bitterly cold. Watching crisp, dead leaves tumble down the cobblestone street, he correctly deduces that this world experiences 4 distinct seasons and that they are currently at the harsh beginning of fall. A deep sense of urgency washes over him as he realizes it will be incredibly tough to secure adequate food, warm clothing, and permanent shelter before the deadly winter finally arrives. The fading twilight completely surrenders to the dense, oppressive darkness of the evening sky. Finally arriving at a beautifully rustic, ivy-draped tavern, Ren gazes at the glowing sign for the Dragon's Cradle and hopes this is the welcoming haven the guild lady promised. Stepping cautiously into the completely empty tavern, Ren wonders if they are just preparing to open and politely calls out to announce his presence. A cheerful little girl abruptly pops up from behind the counter, enthusiastically calling out to her mother that a brand new customer has arrived. Her beautiful mother quickly emerges from the back room, her eyes widening in mild surprise as she asks the girl if they really have a patron. Ren politely requests a room with both breakfast and dinner included, to which the welcoming woman replies that the total cost will be 80 copper coins per night. As he prepares to pay, the curious little girl gently tugs on the hem of his dirty suit jacket. The flustered mother quickly scolds her daughter and begs Ren for forgiveness, explaining that the poor girl has been overly friendly with strangers ever since her husband passed away. Waving off her frantic apologies with a kind smile, Ren tells her not to worry about it while internally realizing that this poor woman also lost her husband to the recent tragedies. Relieved by his gentle understanding, the woman warmly introduces herself as Nene and cheerfully presents her adorable daughter Lulu, offering to personally guide him to his assigned room. Nene pauses to note his severe lack of luggage, prompting an exhausted Ren to admit he has been through quite a lot today. Gripping his meager belongings tightly, he internally laments throwing his bag away earlier, leaving him with absolutely nothing but a small coin pouch and a bundle of harvested grapes. Glancing back at him, Nene comments that his strange, modern clothes look incredibly cool, though she naturally assumes they must be rather difficult to move around in. Smiling softly at her innocent curiosity, Ren happily informs her that his suit is actually quite comfortable, eliciting a look of genuine surprise from the pretty innkeeper. Flashing him a charming wink, Nene brightly announces that a hot, delicious dinner will be served in just a little bit. A short time later, a surprisingly hearty and comforting meal is laid out perfectly across the rustic wooden dining table. Safely secured inside his rented room for the evening, Ren stares out the window into the dark night and breathes a heavy sigh of absolute relief. Sitting wearily on the edge of his comfortable bed, he realizes he desperately needs to start planning for tomorrow, though his mind remains frustratingly preoccupied by that mysterious voice from the vineyard. His eyes widen in sudden realization as he deduces that his unique King of Harvest skill must gain direct experience and level up every single time he gathers something from the earth. That train of thought instantly triggers another crucial memory, reminding him of the highly restricted item box the helpful guild receptionist mentioned earlier. Tapping his cheek thoughtfully, Ren decides he should probably figure out how to actually use the magical storage, wondering aloud if simply commanding it to open will trigger the ability. A massive, glowing wireframe cube suddenly materializes directly in front of his face, causing him to stumble back and yell out in sheer, bewildered shock. The ethereal geometric container hovers silently in the dim bedroom, its transparent interior completely stuffed to the brim with a massive, chaotic assortment of strange items. Staring in absolute disbelief at the overflowing magical inventory, Ren frantically questions why his supposedly empty storage is already packed with so much random junk. Leaning in closer to inspect the floating anomaly, he easily identifies massive piles of freshly plucked leaves and numerous glass bottles completely filled with crystal-clear water. Sweat forming on his brow, the utterly confused traveler demands to know what on earth is going on and how all these bizarre items found their way into his personal vault. Pacing around the tiny room, he rapidly pieces the bizarre puzzle together, recalling that his only actions today involved cleaning up a messy yard, a dirty gutter, and an overgrown fruit grove. Suddenly spotting a small, gleaming rock floating among the debris, Ren grabs it and gasps, recognizing it as a genuine gold nugget and slowly realizing the terrifying implications of his discovery. Thinking back to the moment he felt the mysterious power activate beside the stoic maid, he realizes with absolute horror that his King of Harvest skill was passively working completely on its own. Staring intently at a pristine leaf, he deduces that the magical ability not only automatically collected the discarded trash from his jobs, but it actively upgraded the mundane materials into highly valuable resources. A massive, greedy grin spreads across his face as he realizes that possessing this many raw gold nuggets perfectly sets him up to finally test out his legendary king of smithing ability. Gleefully imagining himself wrapped in luxurious furs, he excitedly theorizes that forging gold might yield ultra-rare platinum, effectively guaranteeing he will never have to worry about money again. Slapping his cheeks to snap out of his wild fantasy, he strictly reminds himself not to get overly greedy, knowing full well that if anyone discovers his absurd powers, his peaceful life is instantly over. Clenching his fists with newfound determination, Ren resolves to prioritize crafting durable protective equipment for himself and enthusiastically decides to hunt down a local smithy first thing tomorrow morning. Pausing his grand planning, he looks down at the shimmering metal in his palm and frowns, deeply confused as to why the solid gold nuggets feel bizarrely soft to the touch. Pressing his thumb directly into the strange material, he easily squishes and kneads the pliable metal exactly as if it were nothing more than a simple lump of wet clay. Feeling a confusing mix of relief and deep disappointment, he concludes that there is absolutely no way real gold can be this malleable, especially as the metal rapidly begins turning a stark, blinding white. The impossibly bright glow rapidly intensifies within his clenched hand, forcing him to shut his eyes against the sudden, overwhelming light. Glaring suspiciously at the newly transformed white chunk, Ren mutters that something is completely wrong here and desperately wonders if he possesses any method to properly appraise the mystery item. Focusing his intense gaze directly on the object, he smoothly activates his appraisal ability, easily drawing upon the incredibly useful secondary skill connected to his king of smithing power. A translucent holographic window instantly chimes into existence, proudly identifying the small, squished lump of white clay as the legendary fantasy metal known as orichalcum. Ren freezes.
By the way, if you enjoyed the video, maybe consider liking and subscribing, pretty please?